Humans Don't Make Good Familiars, Book 3, Chapter 28. Jake's Point of View. We were in a burned-down building, made of stone and charred wood. Twisted metal poles were scattered about, half-melted from whatever spells or fire destroyed the place. As soon as we reappeared, the others just blew over and encircled us, holding planks and scraps of leather with runes on them. "Bring the sedative," the captain ordered, looking to 9, who flew away, and then came back a minute or so later, dragging a wooden bowl, with pink liquid sloshing around inside, across the ground with his beak, with great effort. "Want some help?" I asked. "Yes, please," he said, panting and wheezing. Lieutenant Datu and 14 tied up the prisoners, and I carried the bowl for 9. "Drink it," the captain ordered them. "You think I'd drink a sedative? Let you scratch around inside my soul? You drink it," the sergeant said, turning his head away and ruffling his feathers. Captain Gagodas was cold, ice cold. He didn't react, didn't shout or scream, didn't even think twice about it. He just turned to the subordinate and made a simple declaration. "We only need one of you to drink this, by force or otherwise. The other is useless." His voice was even, sterile of tone, hatred, or anything that might give away what he was thinking. "I do not keep useless things alive." The captain looked at me, then the bowl I was holding, and motioned with his hand to me to set it down in front of them. The subordinate looked at the sloshing goopy pink stuff in the bowl, to me, then to his rebellious sergeant, and finally to the captain. Quietly, he lowered his head and began to drink. "Skiddler," the sergeant spat. "Lorik, kill him," Captain Gagodas said. Lorik glanced over in surprise, then fluttered it next to the captive. "Wait, what?" I asked, stunned. "You don't," the sergeant started to say, but was cut off. "Something you need to know about the Niema. They look like a cross between blue macaws and people. They have vaguely human shapes, but with feathers, wings instead of arms, and most importantly, what happened next? Large talons on their bird-like feet. Well, large for their bodies, I suppose. When Suma or any other perching on my shoulder, the worst as the claws usually do is poke me, or break the skin. But to other Niema, Lorik placed 3 large talons on the sergeant's feathered neck, and pressed hard enough for blood to start trickling. All right, Indra's eyes, I'll drink it." The sergeant leaned his head down and began to drink. "Skiddler," Lorik said, mocking him. "Enough, Lorik, at ease," the captain said. Lorik spread his wings and flew back to the twisted metal perch he'd been resting on earlier next to Suma. They were a fair distance away, but I could faintly hear the two of them talking. Suma asked if Lorik would have actually done it, and Lorik just nodded his head. Through our connection, I could feel Suma's discomfort and fear. Not of Lorik, not exactly, but something I couldn't quite place. Turning my attention back to the prisoners, I noticed the bowl was nearly emptied. Not that it was very full to begin with. "Now what, Captain?" I asked, and kneeled down next to him, half sitting on my own leg. "When the sedative takes effect, it'll last several hours, enough time to perform memory delve and find information about Volundra." The captain turned his head to me, looking up. "Sentinel, you and Lorik will go into their minds and during the delve, while myself and Lieutenant Datu will cast a spell on you both." My eye crooked. "Me? Why?" "We need someone mentally strong enough to pry the information out of their minds. Yourself and Lorik are our best choices," he said. "I get Lorik, but seriously, me?" "Your mind is strong. Your own master couldn't even force you under her command with the right of dominance."
You know?
Suma asked, sounding as shocked as I probably looked.
You two do not hide it particularly well.
Lieutenant Datu remarked.
It is easily the most well-known secret on base.
"Plus, you didn't go insane when you lost your hand. That's something," 9 added, perched a few meters away from the burnt-up wooden beam. "There is also the matter of your soul," the captain added, ignoring the others. "What do you mean?" I asked. "You've had a portion of another soul inside of you for as long as we've known one another. Yet not once have you shown any symptoms, except for when you would occasionally hallucinate. But that has not happened in a while."
Any normal Niama not skilled in soul magic would have lost their minds, or had their personality changed so dramatically that they would effectively be a different mind altogether. But you cannot even use soul magic, and still you have not changed in the slightest."
Lieutenant Datu added. "Exactly, Lieutenant, which is why you, Sentinel, will be one to perform the delve." Thank you, Captain," I said, and agreed. It was another hour before the sedative took effect, and the Niema were unconscious. We untied the Niema and moved the runes away. Then the captain and the lieutenant began the spell. Lorica and I laid next to the prisoners, as a magic circle formed around us, and a second under our heads, mine obviously being much larger than his. Loric went into the sergeant, and I went into the subordinate. As the spell began, my mind felt foggy, like after just waking up from sleep. Nothing felt real, but distorted and stretched, like pulled taffy. Images of my mind, warped memories. Suddenly my whole body was underwater, or that's what it felt like. Everything went cold, fluid, and a little unreal. This was different from when I looked through Zachariah's or Dage's memories, but I could think clearly enough to know why I was here. Balondra, I said, focusing on information I wanted. The images slowed down and took shape, became more solid, more real. Unfortunately, the first thing I saw was a dead Niema, Lichtenberg marks etched all over her body, and smoke rising from different feathers, some of which were still smouldering. Her beak was cracked, part of it missing, and exposed burnt black flesh. One eye was hanging from its socket. If I'd had a mouth in this void of memory, I would have thrown up. Instead, the memory kept going. "You," the voice of the sergeant said, as the point of view turned away from the dead body, and I saw him. One Pack, my old friend from basic training, looked worse for wear. He was covered in blood and missing one of the talons on his left claw foot thing. He was being held down by a familiar, his wings spread out and pinned down by its paw and snout. "I heard you have training with healing magic, right?" "Yes," he said, clearly in pain. "Good, then heal yourself," the sergeant said, and the familiar released his wings, but kept his mouth close to Von Pack's head. Von Pack healed his claw, then the familiar quickly pinned his wings closed with his mouth. "Ah!" he cried out. My stomach dropped watching this. All I wanted to do was end the memory, but I needed to see what happened. "Easy there. We don't want him dead yet. Say, that Niema over there called you Von Pack earlier. Are you a noble? What I'm saying is, are you art of diplomat to the kingdom of Ambos, an ambassador even? Of course you're a noble. I've never met a noble before," Sergeant said, and gave a fake mocking bow. "Who are you? You know, I heard that Ambos was secretly supporting one side of the island's little power struggle. Guess that was true. Want to tell me which one of Ambos had their seed sacks on?" Von Pack stayed silent. "Ah, well, we'll get all the information we want later." The sergeant turned to face me, rather his subordinate. "You, go get the master and know that we found a healer, with plenty of secrets." Seconds later, the memory stretched and warped, then was overwritten with the new distorted memories, all playing at once. "Von Pack," I said, shocked. "Jake," a voice said, echoing in my mind. A cold chill ran down my spine. For a moment, I thought it was Jager's voice. Suddenly, all the warped memories faded away, leaving me in blank white space. "Jake," the voice repeated. "That to who?" I asked, looking around. "No," it said. "Danger." A lump formed in my non-existent, at the moment, throat. If my hands were visible, and I wasn't just floating consciousness in the void, they would have been clammy. "Thankfully not," the voice said. A moment later, there stood a big burly man wearing chainmail furs and leathers. On his hip were 2 axes, and a wooden shield hung from a strap over his shoulder. "Zachariah?" I asked, confused. "It's been a while, little Viking." "How is this happening?" I asked, confused. There one was, right in front of me, all made of fire, not half dragon, not even blurry, just there, floating in a void, moving like he was standing solid at ground and didn't exist. "I overwrote the spell that is connecting you and this fading." "But how?" "This will be the last time we ever speak, young Jake," he said, putting his hand on my shoulder. That's when I noticed I had a body. Every time I've looked through Dage's memories, I've just been watching through his eyes, but now I'm not.
"I am burning up what is left of my soul inside yours, so we do not have much time."
"Why are you doing this?" I asked.
"Because you've given up. Given up on your hunt, on your revenge."
"Danger."
"That is not his name anymore, but yes."
"Why do you care?" I pulled away from his hand, suddenly feeling very defensive.
"Because I'm dying. And when that happens, he will be free."
"What?"
"In less than 1 month, I'll be dead. The crack between the Aether and this world will open, and the dragon will step out. And when that happens, this whole world will be destroyed. Unless you stop him."
No, back up," I began, talking quickly and in shock. "What? You're dying. There's a crack in the world, and Dager's coming back."
"Jake, When that happens, you have to kill him, no matter what it costs you.
Stop, just stop. I was done, free. I'd accepted the fact that I was never going home, but now
the Norns rarely smile for the wants of men, and they do hate loose threads.
He chuckled to himself, and I was immediately overcome with the desire to punch him as hard as I could. Why are you laughing? You just said that you're dying and the world was going to end.
Not if you slay the dragon.
I can barely hold my own against the Nyama, and now you want me to fight the most deadly monster the world has ever seen.
Hardly, he said. He was outclassed by quite a few dragons, like Nidhogg or Vanfana.
You're missing the point.
No, little Virkner. He's not some all-powerful monster, nor is he unstoppable. You can slay him.
Well, how did you do it? How did you beat him?
I didn't.
What?
But I thought, you think I'd beaten him? You think if I'd beaten him, I'd be trapped in the Aether with him, dying, instead of going to Valhalla?
Then, what?
I trapped him and myself, and I've been using magic to keep him there the whole time. It wasn't on purpose, but there is what happened. Like I said, the Norns do not smile often.
He shook his head and sat down. To me, it looked like he was floating in a non-existent chair. What changed?
When he took you from your body and left the Aether, I was left alone there.
He looked pained and took a steady breath.
The Aether is not a gentle thing. It exists in a realm of chaotic storm. Any Aether, what you can call mana, that enters the storm that is not in line with its own nature, is, remade.
I don't understand.
This is fine. When I'm gone, my memories will remain, and you can learn everything you want to know from them.
He looked down at his hand as it began to fade away.
Okay, it's almost time. You have to kill the dragon. Swear to me that you will.
I can't. I don't have what it takes.
You killed those Nyama when they were surrounded and fighting on the island of Sangu. Did you not? You have what it takes, Verkinger.
I'm not a Viking, I yelled. Half of his arm was gone now, like smoke drifting away. No blood poured from his wound, no bone poked out, just hollow shell hiding in deep darkness.
No, but you have the soul of one. Damaged though it may be, it still cried out for revenge.
Damaged? And whose fault is that? You and Danger both forced yourselves into my mind, I yelled. Then a sickening thought came across my mind. Wait, is he still inside me too? With you gone, what will...
He took the portion of his soul from you when he took your body. But it was not us that damaged your soul. It was your master, Suma.
Suma, what?
When you first met, remember, how she tried to force you to become a servant? I have some experience with that myself, so I know how it feels.
He looked down at his shoulder, which was starting to disappear, then reached out his good arm suddenly, forcing it through my chest like a ghost passing through a wall. I seized up, frozen, unable to move. Like fire, pain spread through my whole body, eating me alive. I tried to scream, but could only manage a gasp and grunt, struggling to breathe through the pain.
So long as you're bound to your master's soul, your will bend to hers. In your words, she has, I think you say, reprogrammed you.
As he pulled his hand free, I collapsed, breathless to non-existent ground.
She wanted a familiar, one who was perfect in her eyes. That's what the rite of dominance does. It replaces the familiar's desires with that of the master's. Well, she was not able to finish the rite. That does not mean it had no effect.
I looked up to him, panting, pain gone, dulled. She wouldn't.
With little knowledge of the lay remains in this era, I doubt she even knows what the spell does, beyond allowing a master to control a familiar. Either way,
both his legs were gone now, and he was floating torso with one arm.
It's time, Jake.
What did you do to me?
Prepare you for this, he said,
and flung what was left of himself at me. I put my hand up to block him, but his whole body pressed right through them. The moment his head touched mine, the pain returned, but worse. If last time was a fire all over my body, this was lightning, focused and pure. Every kind of pain you can imagine hit me all at once. There were boulders on my limbs, crushing them. Needles in my eyes, digging into my brain. Every inch of my skin was being pulled apart, flayed like flesh, and stitched back together.
Jake!
Suma yelled, drowned out my own screamings. I yelled, curled up in a fetal position and dripping sweat. The pain was gone now. but the memory lingered on my tingling skin.
Jake, are you okay? What is wrong?
Suma asked. One of her wings was bent in an unnatural direction, clearly broken. The Niema that I'd been connected to was lying still, a few feet away, right where he'd been earlier, when the delve started. What happened? I asked, my hands clenched into fists so tight my knuckles turned white. A trickle of red blood fell from my swollen right wrist. It hurt, but nothing like the pain before.
You just started screaming and flailed around wildly.
Lieutenant Nadahu said. Suma, are you all right? I asked.
I will be fine,
she said, and began to cast a healing spell on herself. Her bone pulled itself back into place with a sudden and sickening crack. Suma winced and stretched out her wing to slowly test it. I'm sorry, I said, wiping the sweat from my head with my left hand. Wait, my hand, I shouted. It grew back while you were screaming, Captain Gagoda said. It was disgusting, I added, looking more green than blue for a moment.
Jake, what happened?
Suma asked. I don't know where to start. End of chapter. Aria 050 Dragzoon W.R.E. and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.